good with it in the hood with it? Welcome back to the Collective Clips, where you already know we get it in. But before we get it in, let's hit that like and the subscribe button. Put your notification bell on all so that way you're directed in the direction of the dope content I am kicking. And I highly appreciate the support. Thank you, man. We're going up, and it's all because of you. I'm very humbled. So before we even start, I'm going to let you know right now, I feel like caca. I feel like shit tonight, right? Woke up sick, well, went to sleep sick, and then wake up even sicker, right? But the beat don't stop. You know, I must perform. I must put my content out there, so bear with me, and thank you for the support. So now, you know, I was looking at YouTube the other day, and I see that there was some shit happening out there in Stockton, right? Stockton's a grimy city, man. You know, Stockton, in the Central Valley in California, Stockton is one of the places that you want to bypass if you're on Highway 99 if you don't have no business there. Because Stockton, not only is it a very gang-related city, there's a lot going on behind the scenes, man. You know, I remember as a young kid, Stockton was always the place that I dreaded going with the homies because there was always some type of confusion and confliction and some bullshit going on. You know, it was cool to gangbang in our little town and gangbang in the surrounding areas, but when you started to travel a little bit past Modesto and hit into Stockton, that's when the real life shit started. That's when you knew, man, you might not make it back. Stockton has always had that reputation of one of the baddest cities in the Central Valley, you know, one of the poorest communities and cities, but at the same time, there's so many different gangs and so many different elements of what's going on there. You have to really watch where you wiggle, you know. There's cities like that throughout the state of California that it's just better left unspoken, or you just don't travel to, man, if you have no business being there. You know, Compton, and we hear about, you know, certain parts of Oakland. Like, if you don't know anybody, you ain't got no family there, now more than likely your fucking credibility and anything you got going on is going to be tested. Well, Stockton is one of those. So Stockton pops up in my news feed, and I see that the Hells Angels, you know, the Clubhouse was raided, and it seems like, you know, they're on their heads. You know, in a task force, when the task force comes together, and they got a lot of different agencies from all different cities and different elements, you know, of fucking officers come together to raid all at one time simultaneously, there's something specific they're looking for. There's a reason for it, right? Usually, you know, when this task force puts something together, it means, you know, they're doing an investigation deeper into, you know, the protocols, the rules, the regulations of what that particular group got's going on. Now, the Hells Angels have been established in the state of California for many, many years. In fact, the state of California is who produced the Hells Angels, period, in the beginning. You know, there's always going to be a lot of people that say the Hells Angels started in Southern California, in the San Bernardino area, and then there's going to be a lot of people that say they started in Northern California, in Oakland. Quietly as it's kept, it started in California, period. Let's just say that, right? And a lot of people sleep on the Hells Angels group, and I've never had any run-ins with them as far as on any bad terms or nothing like that, just because I respect the biker situation. I respect the biker nation, and anything that 1% of bikers got going on, I try to stay away from because it's their business. You know, they have different rules. When it comes to gangs and it comes to bikers, they're more of a brotherhood, more of a club, you know, and what goes on in that clubhouse usually stays in that clubhouse. Now, a lot of people are intimidated when they see Hells Angels or Mongols or Vogels or any type of bikers in California, and you should be. You should be. It's not that they're putting off that aura and they're trying to intimidate you, but if you don't know their world, if you've never been involved in the biker world or don't know someone who has, it's a lot different than just your average Joe Schmo, your regular guy on the streets, or even gang members. You know, as in gangs, we're all about our neighborhoods and the protection of our community and our people and being number one. You know, when it comes to the biker community, they're on a whole different level. You know, they're more like brothers. They're coming together for the establishment of their people and to ride, man. A lot of people join biker clubs just to ride. They want to ride, and then there are going to be some elements within the clubhouse that are into bad things. But the majority of the people that are involved in these biker clubs are 9-to-5ers. They're good dudes. You know, whatever reputation their clubhouse has, their club in particular, the Hells Angels at this point have, it's going to precede them. So there's always going to be, you know, cops, task force looking at them. And I think they look at everybody and just bid their time and wait for any type of infraction or someone to slip up so that they could do these raids. So anyways, the other day, the Stockton Clubhouse was raided. And that's kind of a trip because you know, I've always heard the old saying, bikers say, keep your clubhouse clean, right? And you got to understand, my father, growing up as a kid, he kicked it with a lot of bikers. He had homeboys that were Hells Angels. He had homeboys that were independent bikers. My father did have a motorcycle. He had a Vikla, an old school one, nice, clean. And a lot of his homeboys, were bikers. That's just what it was. My Theo also did a lot of willings and dealings with the Mongols as well as the Hells Angels, independently on his own. He had his shit going on. So I grew up in an era where, the bikers were out there. You would see them. There wasn't really too many in the Central Valley that I recall, other than like the Bar Hoppers and other little clubs. But they were more so in the Bay Area in Southern California. Well, somewhere in the mid 90s, man, early 90s, they started to establish pretty thick out in the Central Valley. And I remember the Mongols came out to the Merced County area. And of course, the Hells Angels were out in that area too as well. Stanislaus County and San Joaquin County, which is Stockton. So you would see them more on the freeway. They always traveled in packs and groups. And I mean, it was like seeing a unicorn. Oh shit, there's the Hells Angels. And they'd be 3 or 4 of them on their bikes, minding their own business, doing their own thing. And a lot of people were intimidated by them because they heard old stories about bikers, man. Back in them days, car bombs were going off, things of that nature. You just didn't play with them guys because you didn't know what they were into, and their business was pretty vicious. So anyways, I guess these clubhouses in Stockton got raided, and allegedly, according to what the authorities are saying, they seized, over 50 firearms, and they arrested 4 individuals. Now, to me, that spells informant. That spells that somebody gave them some type of information, that there was something there that they could hit and they can get at that particular time. And that's usually what happens, man. Somebody within the club or within a gang gets locked up on a petty ass charge, whether it be a dope charge, and they just decide that they don't want to go do their 3 or 4 months anymore. I can't do it, right? And that's it, man. The task force uses that opportunity and that person to infiltrate, what's going on there, because there's bigger fish to fry. Usually that dude that gets caught up on that fucking dope case, he's a user and abuser. They don't care about him. They'll gladly let him go free. They want the big dogs, right? They want the household. They want the guys, the movers and the shakers, whoever's in the authority figures, whoever's doing their thing. And they take the opportunities to do these raids, put these RICOs on groups and all that. And it's all usually about 1 or 2 people that they're really targeting, but everybody would get caught up. And it's a situation where it's fucked up because, it's a violation going into these clubhouses, raiding and destroying, the sacred, things that they got going on and the secrecy that they got going on, because you assume, but when the TASS or anyone, these agencies come knocking at your door, it's a day of reckoning. And it happens a lot, and I think the Hells Angels, they get preyed upon when it comes to the authorities, just because of the name, just because of the notorious name that group has gotten over the decades. Like I said, most of these bikers nowadays that I know about are just 9-to-5ers, man. They're just guys going to work and that like to ride on the weekends and kick it with their gente, their people. Just imagine, all these different houses being raided, and what they did is they hit it simultaneously. So not only did they hit the clubhouse in Stockton, but at the same time they were also hitting a spot in Turlock and several other homes. When the task comes knocking, they really come, and that's one thing I told my homeboys. We used to have Task Force Tuesdays in my town. I don't know if you guys had them in your city, but we knew that those were the days that the tasks rolled around, the gang tasks. They would hit homies' homes, and then parole. They'd always be with probation or parole. And we already knew, like, be tucked, homie, be prepared for Task Force Tuesdays. You could see them riding around the town. They were going to a homeboy's house. We'd all be on alert. Hey, homie, back in the days you had that chirp, that mobile boost. Chirp them. Hey, bro, they're coming, right? Tuck it. Do like Wes Watson and slam the fucking VCR in your asshole, right? You know what I'm saying? Why, bro? What do you got in there? I don't know, but you know what I mean? He says it feels good. So, they would come, they would hit. But usually if they're going to take the initiative to do something like this and put together a task from every different agency from the local area, that means they're after something. There's something bigger going on there. Now, from what I read, I guess, they were getting information, or they had received information that there was plenty of assaults and a lot of different smaller things that led up to them just having enough and finally saying, fuck it, man, we're going to try to get these guys. Now, ultimately, arrests were made, and whatever case they decide to charge these guys with, like, of course, whoever was in that clubhouse, if allegedly they did find firearms, they'll probably be held accountable for that. depending upon if they, have their license or, what firearms were there or whatever. But that's not really a big situation. It is a Fed case, facts, right? Once it becomes firearm related and there's several firearms, and I'm sure not all of them were up to par, it does become a Fed case. And now what you have, man, is they're trying to cripple, the Hells Angels in the Central Valley. And in any club, organization, gang, it's hard to cripple them. People fall back or fall off and other people, take full charge. The shit will never stop. That's what I've always learned, and I've learned over the years. It doesn't matter how many people drop out of a gang, how many people fall off, how many Ricos or task force come to your door. There's always going to be the next group or batch to step up, and usually it's a learning curve. You learn from the disastrous things that happen in your life. You'll learn from that. So now these guys will understand, you keep your clubhouse clean. The Hells Angels back in my days, when you thought of a Hells Angel, you thought of a rough, tough guy like the one on the thumbnail, right? Big beards, bikers, big old white dude. But that has changed nowadays. Nowadays, gang members, even bikers, you can't tell the difference. You can't tell a guy, you're going to see these youngsters, they could be someone hardcore, really a shooter in the hood, about the business, and have a Punch's Pilot haircut, have an Edgar and some skin tight ass pants, but he's the number one shooter. See, back in our days, you could tell the difference in society from gang members to a regular Joe Schmo. You can't tell that anymore. Everybody blends in. That's like the Bay Area, trying to tell North and South apart. You can only tell by the colors they display. But if you look at a Norteño and a Sureño from the Bay Area, you ain't going to be able to tell. You know what I'm saying? They're both going to have their cornrows, gold teeth, and they're going to be out there thizzing, right? That's just what it is. And it's becoming like that in Southern California and throughout the Central Valley, whereas they're not easily identified anymore. Everybody's looking the same. And I don't know if it's just we're losing our grip with our culture, or with our Chicanismo or the Cholo estilo. I'm speaking on the Mexican business, but it's just that everybody looks the same. Nobody's is, there are some guys you could tell like, hey, the Vato's all tatted back, wearing bands. He's keeping it old school. Yeah, he's gang related, right? Or people assume he's gang related. But there's a lot of Chicanos that dress that way or have looked that part that are not even part of gangs, And it's the same thing with bikers. I went to San Jose. It was a while back, right? Went to one of my primos' pads. They were having a barbecue. Like, fuck it, I'll slide through. You know what I'm saying? I know everybody in the world wants to get me, but hey, you know what I'm saying? I can only die once. So I slid, and there was a whole bunch of Mongols there. Excuse me. I'm sick. Gotta cough it up. And I couldn't tell. Man. They didn't have their chalecos on, which are their vests, their thing, because that wasn't an actual Mongol function, an event. It was just an event for my fucking primo's fucking old lady's birthday, right? And because she is related to a whole bunch of them, there was about 6 or 7 of them there. Of course, they have black tees on, whatever. They're going to display their colors. That's just what it is. But they didn't have their vests on and shit like that. Their letters or whatever it is. Their their identifying marks. Let's just say that. But I couldn't tell. They looked like every other motherfucker at that party. It's become the world that we live in where you can't tell one person from the next. Back in the days, I could easily identify someone where they're from, but nowadays, I don't know what the fuck's going on. And everybody's wearing tight pants and funny haircuts, so it is what it is. So anyway, them hitting, excuse me, man, I'm sick. Them hitting the clubhouse of the Hells Angels, is that going to have a ripple effect? I don't know. I think they shot their shot. I think the Taz shot their shot. I think they were aiming at a target and trying to get, something. But what happens, and I'm not going to say just necessarily with the Hells Angels. Let me tell you what happens when they do this. They start questioning everybody, man. They're trying to break somebody. And usually, when they do Ricos or they do these big old fucking raids, they're able to break somebody. That's usually what happens. Now, I'm not going to say any of these guys are going to break because I don't know them like that, There's some solid ass cats from the Hells Angels. But usually they try to break a motherfucker down and, find out what exactly they're targeting. And most of the time they get what they want. And that's just because when people are faced with adversity and they're faced with a lot of time, you could be the hardcorest motherfucker in the world, bro. And I could sit here and tell you about a gang of stories about some real ones. A lot of people will fold up shop. See, it's easy to sit on the internet and it's easy to sit behind the prison walls in the cell and it's easy to sit out here, man, and say, oh, I'm solid, homie. I'll never fucking go in on my homeboys. I'll never say nothing. And then when they tell you you're looking at 199 years, the tune changes. Then vaulters are like, what? So they'll be like, hey, sir, yeah, we got you here. You're charged with 3 firearms. You're like, shit, homie, that ain't it. It ain't fucking 3 firearms. Fuck you, man. Hurry up, man. My Fruit Loops are getting soggy. What's happening? Yeah, all right, so with this firearm, you're going to be facing 37 years. This one, we're going to get you for 100 years. This one, we're going to get you for 20 years. Can I say something real quick, right? Yeah, what do you got to say, sir? So if we just take this one and move this one over here and slide this one over here plus everything I'm going to tell you right now, can we get that knocked down to 18 months? You know, that's usually how it goes. People will start volunteering information. They're like, nah, hell nah, Mookie didn't shoot him. Nah, hell nah, I ain't going to tell you that was Bubba. Fuck no, I ain't. You know what I'm saying? Who would I look? Why would I tell you it was Bubba when it wasn't Mookie? Why would I tell you, right? You know, you just did. You know, vaulters would play it slick and try to save face, but at the end of the day, someone always breaks. And it's unfortunate. And here's something else I wanted to say about the Hells Angels that tripped me out. You know, I remember as a youngster, man, like I said, Hells Angels looking a certain way. Big, rough looking guys, you know, big beards and whatever. And nowadays, you know, I noticed in the Central Valley, man, a big influx of like norteños, or even, you know, guys that were part of gangs at one point joining their ranks, or it looks like they're joining these clubs. You know, you start to see in Northern California, especially, a lot more motorcycles rolling, a lot of homies on bikes, you know, and I've always tripped out on that because the gang world was always separate from the biker world, especially in Northern California. In Southern California, it's a different stilo. You know, you had the Mongols down there, and that line between the Mongols and the Southerners, Southsiders, where they once were at guerra. And then, of course, you have a lot of ex-Southerners or active Southerners that join, you know, the ranks of the Mongols. And it was what it was, you know, Clubhouse and all that before gangs. You know, I've heard once you cross that threshold and you're involved in that club, you're patched in, homie. You now no longer cease to be from a barrio or a neighborhood. You are, you know, from that fucking club. And that's it, first and foremost, your family, your club, and whatever else, right? However their rules go. And I respect it. I've always respected the bikers because they look at it more as a brotherhood rather than a gang. You know, that it's not labeled that because it isn't that. You know, but that doesn't mean the authorities don't see it that way. You know, they're going to see any type of group more than 3 as a gang, man. And they're going to do anything they can to validate you as one and to put that title on you and apply pressure. That's just how they do it. So it doesn't matter what spin or label you put on it. They're always going to look at you some type of way, man. You know, if you're not with them, you're against them. And that's just it. That's cat and mouse, fucking cops and robbers. It's the way it is. If you're not on that side, you're on the other side. You know, and anybody can get it. So, but yeah, I tripped out like in Northern California when I do go out there to go visit Familia and Wiggle. You know, you're seeing a lot more Mexicans on bikes. You're seeing a lot more Chicanos cruising out there, especially in the San Jose area and the Central Valley. You know, I have a homeboy from my neighborhood, from my barrio I grew up with, you know, tough when we were youngsters. And, you know, we got separated in YA. I went to the youth authority. He came later on. And, you know, I was hearing about him. He was in DeWitt Nelson doing his thing. And at that time, I was impressed. And then I went to Carl Holton. And, you know, I was just here for homeboys that would come over. Like, hey, your homeboy's over there. Solid. We get out. I run into him a few times. You know, like I said, our lives were on different courses. I was always in and out of prison or doing my thing. And he kicked back with a different circle of homies. And he was doing his prison and his thing. So we just never really chilled like that. But just recently, maybe a few years ago, I got a hold of the homeboys. And I was like, what's cracking? What's up with this homeboy? We started reminiscing. They were like, oh, you didn't hear? Yeah, he's not a homie no more. And I'm like, oh, shit, he fell off. What happened? They were like, nah, bro, he's a Hell's Angel. Like, what? For reals? Yeah, he got into it, bro. He started riding bikes, and he actually, you know, became somebody within their hierarchy, you know? And I was like, wow, trip out on that. Not that the homie wasn't a good homie and wasn't solid, didn't have a good reputation. He was in and out of prison. I just tripped out on how he gave up the ghost and went into something else. But a lot of vatos do. You know, I remember I have a friend, man, close friend that I actually played football with, and, you know, he got into the biker scene. And, you know, he's got a lot of support for the Mongols, and that's just his thing. And I respect him for that. I respect him for his ways and what he wiggles on. Anyway, so yeah, back to the Hells Angels. I got sidetracked. They did hit him with the task force. Fucking, they smashed all over the Central Valley, arresting all kinds of people and raiding. And this shit happens. It's commonplace. California, man. You know, you just never know what day the tidal wave is coming. You know, they earthquake some shit. You know, what's going to happen? I mean, like I said, more people will step into place and everything's going to see all right, cuz. it's not as big deal, you know, other than the people and the families that it affects directly, you know. To say that I didn't see this one coming, you know, it seems like the task force always, you know, they'll go after the Northerners, they'll go after the Southerners, the Crips, the Bloods. They target people and they investigate for a while, and there's always something going on. There's always some type of raid going on. It tripped me out because I haven't seen the biker world, get raided as big as this one in a very long time. You know, it's been a long time, but again, Northern California is changing. There's a lot going on that they're attributing to, you know, that war or that guerra between the Mongols and the Hells Angels. And to be totally honest with you, man, when it comes to the bikers, people are scared. You know, they're scared of the unknown. They're scared of that biker world, man. And like I said, the only reason I got to see the inside of that world just a little bit was because of my family members that were involved, you know. And other than that, man, I'll just tell you, they ain't the ones to be played with. I respect them to the fullest, man. I respect the biker community. And, you know, I think it's bullshit that, you know, the Tests are just able to desecrate and go in on a Clubhouse, man, and fuck up their, you know, their secrets and the sacred shit they got going on. All to find a couple little allegedly to find a couple little guns and arrest a few people. Just doesn't make no sense, seem to make no sense, man. But they're going to keep doing it, man. You know, they got a job to do, and that's what they're going to do. Anyways, with that being said, hope that you move smooth with a purpose. Get every single thing that you want coming, and remember, at the end of the day, it's all about the strive, the struggle, the struggle, the strive. Thank you for bearing with me when I'm sick. I got a super banger coming up later on this afternoon, so make sure you tap in, and I appreciate it, man. But that's the latest and the greatest. That's the news right here from Northern California, Central Valley, man. The Hells Angels, the Hells Angels Clubhouse gets raided, and they arrest several Hells Angels and allegedly find all these firearms. What's going to come out of it? I guess we'll just have to watch and see. The gun, bang, bang.